All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to our interview series as we prepare for courses to open here in New Hampshire on May 11th. This time I'm joined by Matt Gaynor. He is the head golf professional at Nonesuch River up in Maine. Thanks for joining me, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. How are you guys doing in New Hampshire?
We're hanging in there for sure. Just preparing for courses to open. We want to provide as much information out to our clubs, and I think it's really great to talk to somebody from a course that's been open for a little bit now, and just kind of talk about the practices that you guys have put in place for social distancing and sanitizing and that type of thing. So I guess we'll start it off with what are some of the social distancing practices that you guys have implemented at your course?
Okay, so we followed procedures that I think have been pretty well outlined in other states and regions of the country. We worked hand in hand with the NHGA, the PGA of America, the NGCOA, which I think is, par for the course for most states as we get going here. So some of the most common things, obviously, no bunker rakes, no ball washers, no scorecards, eliminating, common touch point areas, high touch point areas. You know, there's that, we use signage pretty extensively on the first tee, on the 10th tee, in the parking lot, around the building. Pretty much just lays out the overall gist of what we're trying to accomplish. And generally speaking, everybody, adheres to that pretty well. Obviously when they actually make their way onto the golf course, it's up to themselves to police it from there. But from what we can control from the, immediate clubhouse area, whole process we have has worked pretty well. So.
Good. So what are some of the sanitation practices that you guys have been using for carts and maybe some other touch points that you have?
Yeah, so as far as the carts go, so we have a wash station. We use the same wash station we had been using previously. Obviously, the employees outside, face coverings and gloves while they're washing carts. We use pesticide spray bottles that have been filled with disinfectant sanitizer. So the cart is washed thoroughly, cleaned of trash, garbage, whatever, and then it's sprayed with disinfectant. We allow the disinfectant to dry for 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and then we pull the cart back to its staging area. So the interesting thing we've done here, we don't stage our carts out front in the normal staging area. We keep them, kind of over on a little pad behind the clubhouse, that way, away from customer view. That way the customer can't just jump into the cart, touch the steering wheel. So, we have instructed the customer to call the clubhouse when they get to the facility. They can pay for a cart, and then one of our staff members brings the cart around, and then we go from there.
Oh, excellent. Have you actually found that a lot more people are walking, or still kind of the same amount for carts?
We have found in the first 6 days that we've been open, our cart usage is down rather significantly over years past. We haven't had warm weather, obviously, springtime in New England, so that might be playing a role. But yeah, we definitely have found a correlation that cart usage and in turn revenue has been, down a little bit over the same time frame last year.
Okay. So I'm sure you guys have a procedure where people are either booking tee times online or over the phone with you guys. So when they get to the course, do you have a certain check-in procedure for the golfers?
We do. So we have, we've adopted, which I think is, pretty generic around the, New England region, park, play, and go home policy, as outlined by a lot of the state golf associations. So yeah, we take tee times through our website. You can pay with a credit card and take care of the whole thing. It's super easy, one click pay. So that's been successful. And then obviously we do over the phone as well. We require at least one person in the group. So if you have a group of 4 and you're looking to set a tee time for 3 days from now, we require payment from at least one person in the group. And then we allow the other 3 individuals to call individually with their own credit card and pay over the phone. And both of those ways have worked pretty well. We haven't really had any sort of hiccups or anything as far as that goes. We've been able to essentially fill our tee sheets almost to 100% utilization every single day since we've been open.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. So kind of going back to the practices that you have in place for your employees, what are some of the guidelines that you have them following, and how are you ensuring that they are following all the proper guidelines to keep things sanitized and everything?
Right. So we were given, very specific guidelines directly from the state of Maine in the CDC, and those were applicable to, us being allowed to reopen. So obviously, when we got that list, we were able to get that list a couple days before we actually opened. It allowed us plenty of time to, put all those practices and protocols in place. We have upped our staffing pretty significantly to, adhere to all the new protocols in place. So compared to years past, we have, 2 or 3 more additional people on site daily, both inside and outside, to help monitor the whole situation, enforce everything that's going on, which again has worked pretty well in the first week or so that we've been open now. But yeah, specifically, we have, owner, head golf professional, shop attendants, outside service, open, close, mid. We have every aspect of it covered. So there's never really, a point where somebody might be left alone or uncomfortable with what we're doing. So, just following everything through as much as possible has been, our solution to that.
Sure. So I have seen in Maine that anybody who either leaves the state and comes back, or somebody coming into Maine, they have to follow a 14-day quarantine period before they can come play. Is that still true? And how are you guys monitoring that type of situation?
Right. So that is correct. That was one of the, situations that obviously we thought was a big red flag when it came out, because that would be a little bit difficult to, actually enforce. So on a couple of times that it's come to it, I think it's that's going to be less of a problem now that New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Vermont get going. But in the couple of times that it did happen, we had to, so we asked for a credit card, or we asked for both a credit card number and a telephone number. Booking a tee time, we require both of those things online as well. So if you see an out-of-state phone number, you have to ask the question, and then, you just have to, relay the protocols and guidelines that were given to us as far as the 14-day out-of-state quarantine, et cetera. And then ultimately, there's a little bit of it where it's up to the, actual individuals to police themselves. And, on our end personally here, we have found that the majority of people are, willing to actually self-police themselves and adhere by the, general guidelines set forth by the individual states.
That's good. That's good. So have you find that a lot of the players have been more willing to follow a lot of the guidelines? Obviously, they can get out and play. I'm sure they're happy. But with a lot of the changes that are happening to the course, have you heard any kind of feedback on the things that you guys have out there?
Not anything negative. I think everybody is in a pretty similar spot. They're just happy to have golf back and be out there in some capacity. And I think, being that we feel a little bit lucky to be, operating, even if it is under the circumstances that we're in. And I think our customer base feels the same way. And as a result of that, they're going to do everything they can to avoid any future restrictions, being implemented, at any point in the future. So I think, that camaraderie of everybody kind of working together, towards an overall better solution, I think has worked in everybody's favor up here. And we're optimistic that we see restrictions eased, maybe even earlier so than what was originally, laid out in, months-long economic, rephase plans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, unless you have anything else to add, I thank you for taking the time today just to answer questions. I think this will be good feedback for some of our clubs who are looking just to see how things are going at places that golf has been open. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish everybody in New Hampshire well, and hopefully you guys have a great first week when you get going next week, okay?
Thanks, Matt. Yep, thank you.